Thank you very much, Mike. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandy Durade. I am a counselor here at the Welcome Home City Department, and I'm also a counselor at General Counseling. We would like to take questions at the end, so if you can please save your questions in the chat, and then we can talk about it after. So in today's agenda, we will be going over your goals, general education paths, and what the differences between each one of them, and the stress of thinking about your goals and what we could do together. Then we'll discuss a little about the college catalog and why it's important, why you as a student should view it and use it sometimes. And we'll talk about transcript evaluation, and then we'll get some tips on the importance of GPA and how W's affect your transcript. Then we'll talk about some of the housing issues that you might see, and then we can talk about excuse withdrawals with different circumstances. And then I'm going to talk to you a little about what academic renewal is and why it's important for you to know about it. And then we will have the Career Center might come in today and just speak with you of what the Careers Center will do and how they go with counseling. And then we will conclude. So today, I just wanted to talk about you as a person coming into college. Of course, you have some goals in mind, and it's okay if you don't know what your goal is. If it's an academically or if it's like a career, then we can discuss it together of what would be your goal. If it's gonna lead you to an associate degree, or maybe you need to reach your goal to get just a certificate, and what is the transfer and how we can work on that together. And like I mentioned, it's okay to be unsure. We can still plan for success, and we have some tools that would help you and empower you to reach your success. So again, the key is to make progress, not to seek perfection. So if you don't know, like maybe what is your major, we have some tools here, like I mentioned. You would take a personality test, and then you'll take a test that's called My Next Move. And then you have some different types of quizzes and career quizzes that would identify your potential career and what kind of major, this major will lead you to what career you would like to get in the future. So it's just whenever you connect with us, we can also share with you these links after. If you need anything, you can use them. Identifying your major. So of course, we need to make sure that you find the right major. Sometimes you choose a major and then you don't really like the major, or you feel like I want to do this, but I don't want this major. Then, we need to think in a bigger picture, because looking at the future and what we want is different from starting each step and going for it. So, we can always come back and we can discuss if you ever want to change your major to choose the best major that fits you. So in order to do that and reach your goal, you need to think of your goal plus the major that would lead you to what educational requirements, like what classes you will need to take to reach your goal. So we'll talk about the different general pathways. So we have the general education path, which is to earn an associate degree. So if you just want to get an associate degree, you will need to complete 60 units total to get that associate degree. Now, it can be sometimes more than 60, or the requirements might be less than 60. So you would take elective classes, which we can talk about also if it's a degreeable class and if it's not. So in order to get these 60 units, we'll have to focus on what is your major classes. So if your major is business administration, we'll need to see how many classes you'll need to take to get the degree requirement for that. And then you will need to do the general education classes as well. So combining both of them, you'll have the 60 units total. So what is the difference between an associate degree and a certificate? And I get a lot of questions on what can I do with them and how does it work? So there are two types of certificates. One of them is from the college, and then one of them is a department specifically. So we can discuss that more based on each scenario. And then the associate degree is that you have to make sure you get the major classes done and also the general education classes done. While the certificate, you will only need to take the major classes and then you'll get the certificate. So some students want to get their career started earlier, then they might do the certificate first and try to apply for positions, and then meanwhile continue to get their associate degree. Or sometimes you just combine both of them to make it a full-time student for you, because sometimes you cannot take all the classes at one time. due to prerequisites. Prerequisites is that you have to take a class before you take the next one. So usually students would want to do, some major classes plus the general education classes. So this is what the general education sheet looks like. If you would just get an associate degree, do not transfer, don't want a certificate, then this is what you would follow. From each area, as you can see, you need to select one class. And then if you count all of them, you're going to have maybe less than 18 units. So in the requirements, you need to have at least 18 units from this sheet. So selecting from each area, you can take these classes. And then if you have, classes left, then you can do from any area you want. You can just decide on whatever class you want to do. But of course, I always suggest that when selecting classes, make sure you confirm it with us counselors to make sure that this class is the best class for you. Because sometimes what we advise students is that, for example, if you're doing cybersecurity and you have some classes left, units to do, then might as well take classes that would lead you to another certificate that you can qualify for. That's why it's really important to speak with a counselor when choosing any class you want. Now talking about general education path. So this sheet you would use if you want to transfer to a university, like any California State University, you would want to follow this path while you're doing your major classes. Why? Because this one would lead you to the requirements for transfer. So that one, we have some classes that go here and there, but then we have some more, let's say a little more classes here when you're trying to transfer. So select classes from these sheets would help you just to prepare, just in case you wanted to transfer to a California state. Now, if you're thinking that you might not, you're not going to stay here and you want to move to another state or out of, in a different university, then you might want to follow this sheet. This sheet prepares both the UCs and the CSUs. So you can select classes from this sheet. And then if you can see here in area 1C, the oral communication, this says this is a CSU requirement only. So just being careful when you're taking classes here, just to make it shorter for you and faster to transfer. But again, always reach out to us so we can help you better decide what classes to take. So now that we spoke about the different general education paths, we'll talk about why is the catalog important and what can we use with it and what can we do with it. So the college catalog gives you a lot of details, and I know it's a huge book that you don't maybe want to just skim through, but again, maybe just focusing on some college policies and the admission process, the regulations here, and the detailed course description, which is really important. You can also view it in class schedule, but again, looking at in the catalog will give you more details as well. So how you would go through it, you would go to sdcity.edu and then you'll click academics, and then you'll go to college catalog, and then you'll find this here. We have, depends on your catalog here that you're using, which of course you have to also discuss it with with us counselors. You can select the catalog and then you can view it from there. So again, why is it important? Because it's a contract between you and the college. It has information about the requirements for graduations, for your major descriptions. And I know even though you also heard from us counselors, you would also see that in the college catalog. You will also view it, why it's also important, you will also view it to find the associate degree and certificate major classes, which I was talking about. You might want to come in and do an education plan to know exactly what classes to take, when to graduate, but it's also important for you to see it in the catalog. If you have any questions that you want to come in and ask us, then you have an idea of what classes we have. Some of the, as you can see here, like for example, additional unit from this section. So they give you a bunch of classes and then they ask you to choose one of them. That's why it's really important to check in the catalog and look at the different classes. Maybe you can also skim it through before you join the counseling meeting. That way you can ask what would be the best class and which one would be going best for you. The best way to search it is to find the associate degree and certificate programs sheet, and then that way it gives you the list of the majors that we have here at City College. You can also view it for Mesa and Miramar because we're all in the same district, But if you're viewing the city college catalog, then you would come into this sheet and then you will see what kind of degree we have for each major. For example, for accounting, we do not have an associate degree to transfer. We have only an associate degree. So that means you would take the associate degree here, and then but you're also taking classes to prepare to transfer. But there's no contract between specific college for that major. As you can see, for example, here, the tax preparer, it's only a certificate of performance. So doing these classes will only lead you to certificate, not an associate degree. So that's why this is really important for you to view and write down any questions you have. And then once you meet with us, we can specifically talk about each one individually. Course description, which I was talking to you all about, any course that you are registered for or you plan to register for, you can read what that class is about. So all the course descriptions, you will find it around the pages of 300 in the catalog. So you can go ahead and take a look how many units it is, what kind of labs it has, and what are the topics that will be discussed in the class. Now, since we went over the college catalog, always know that if you have been in any other colleges before, it's really important to send your transcript to us as soon as possible. Why? Because we don't want you to take classes that you might have already took in the previous college, or take classes that these classes might have already counted for you, and things change every time. We get updates all the time. So it's really important to come in and bring your transcript. Another example is if you have been in another college and you want to take a class here that has a prerequisites, we cannot clear the prerequisites for you unless we see the transcript. So sometimes the unofficial transcript that you show us via shared screen, or we can have access to it, then we can clear prerequisites. But if we don't have any access and you don't have access to it, you will lose maybe a semester because we do not have access to your records. So it's really important that you send it. The process for transcript evaluation takes around 90 days. So that's why it's really important to send it in as soon as possible. And if you can have a copy of it, that would be great when meeting with us counselors. So we get a lot of students that, things happen in life, is here. So you might be in the semester taking your class, and then, stress and comes in, and family issues or anything like housing issues, anything in general that may be a barrier for you to continue your semester. We want to give you some tips on how to do that. So first of all, we really want you to speak with your professor and get help and let them know your situation. That way they can support you and see what you could do to succeed in that class. Because of course, we don't want you to fail a class or drop a class. And by the end of the day, it's going to be on you. So always seek out your professor, come speak with us counselors. Let's see what's the best decision for you. Sometimes you just say, I cannot do the class anymore. Like whatever is happening with me, I will not be able to finish the class. So, we can talk about some alternative options. So maybe dropping the class, or, maybe this is not the right time to take this class, especially if it's a major class that you need to take this class. I really suggest that you really take your time and focus on that class, because if you have a couple of classes and then one class is stopping you from succeeding the rest, then maybe it's the right time to drop the class and focus on other stuff. Or maybe not drop the class, receive an F, and then we can discuss other options for receiving an F as well. But, the drop line for having a W, the W will always stay on your transcript unless, since you have some stress in the middle of the class and issues, then we can talk what is a W and how we can fix the W. So what is the W standing? Maybe some of you might not know. When student withdraw from a course after the add or drop line, they will receive a W standing on their academic records. Such standing are not included in computing average. So if you are taking classes and your GPA is 3.5 and you want to drop the class with a W, your GPA will remain 3.5 because it will not affect your transcript, your GPA, but it will still be a W visible on your transcript. What is the impact of the W? Well, it's true that the W will affect and still be on your academic record, regardless whether you complete the course or a later time, or you repeat the class, the W will still be there. You cannot take out the W. But for example, if you're applying to maybe go to a graduate school, it depends also on the program that you want to apply for in the future and how they view W's. So that's why I always speak with the counselor to see what's the best thing to do for you. Especially sometimes when you're applying for different universities, there's a portion where you can write down what was the reason for you receiving a W. And of course, it would be understandable based on your scenario. You need to also have documentations to prove why you received this W. So always keep in mind that anytime you have, something coming in or stress that's stopping you from completing the class or dropping, make sure you get some proofs. If it's a PDF, if it's pictures, try to save them. That way, these would be proof for you to use to make sure that your transcript looks better. Considering alternative options to withdrawing, it might not be ideal to have withdrawal on your record, but consider the alternative. Is there a chance you might fail the course or receive, a very low grade that will affect your GPA? Or maybe, like I mentioned, it's taking time from your other classes that you might get a better grade in the, next 3 classes, because if you, take a W on that class, then you will do better on the rest of the classes. So really just think of it as what is the best option for me to do. And that way, you can decide on what to do the best. A single W is not considered a trend, and it does not by itself indicate anything on you or any behavior. So it's fine to have 1 W, 2 Ws, but if it gets more, then this is a red flag that we need to work on and see what's the best thing we can do together, okay? Something that's really nice that came in after COVID is excuse withdrawal, okay? A lot of us during COVID had to drop classes. We had a lot of stuff going on, and that we don't want that to be affected into us long term. So we have a petition that you can see online, and you can fill it out, and you can discuss what's the stress and housing, if it's a family, stability, everything. Like I mentioned, you need some documentations to prove why you received a W. That way you can submit this petition and then get that W excused. Now, that doesn't mean that the W will be removed from your transcript. No, it will still be on your transcript, but it's going to say excused withdrawal. That way, if you're transferring, if you're applying for specific programs, they see that it was excused, that the college approved it to be excused. There was a circumstance that stopped you from continuing with the class, things like that. And again, speak with us to see if it's best to do an excuse withdrawal, or if it's maybe not the right time to do a W. So sometimes if it's not your major class, maybe consider, keeping the class and maybe not, let's say failing the class, because we have other options, which I will discuss to you about. But always, if you have a letter from your doctor, health issues, housing issues that you can bring proofs of, that you want to reach out for help, collect these documents, because these documents will help. You can always reach out to people that know about your situation and have them write like a personal statement to help you, apply for excuse withdrawals. The petition on how to go for excuse withdrawal, you would go to student forums, and then you will come here, choose excuse withdrawal. You will see that you have to enter all this information here, and then petition for excuse withdrawal. You would have to select what type it is, and then for what term you're using it, and then you have to acknowledge all of these, and then make sure you have a good personal statement done, because they look at why you want to do an excuse withdrawal. And then, like I mentioned, any documentations, anything that you want to give that would support you, you would have to put the attachments here. And this is the link to get directly to this page. We can always share it with you after if you need it. We want to make sure we really balance while you're working to settle, choosing the correct classes, like major requirements with some general education classes, knowing the prerequisites. Because if, for example, you choose a major that has a lot of prerequisites, a lot of math classes, a lot of biology classes, then you wouldn't want to know how to take these classes. That's why it's really important to have an education plan, so that way you know what classes and when to take, because you cannot take, for example, Math 150 before you take Math 141. So you just have to make sure that you speak with us to go over how to balance between taking these classes. And then always think about GPA and time, because maybe you want to be a full-time student, but you have other stuff in life and you cannot be a full-time student. So maybe considering taking part-time, like one class from your major, one class general ed, that way you can focus on them and get a better GPA. While if you're squeezing everything in to be a full-time while you're working and you have other stuff in life, then if you cannot do it, then your GPA will be low. So it's just a conversation that we can have together to see what's the best thing to do for you as a student. Because also keep in mind that when you're transferring and going for a different major, it depends, because some majors are really competitive and some programs are really competitive. So you really need to have a good grade overall. So just speak with us and then we can, talk to you and what we can do together, the best thing for you. So putting it all together, like what a lot of students might do, making sure you take, the first, if you're new and the first year for you, maybe take an oral communication and English class, because these classes are really important overall if you're going to do an associate degree or you're going to transfer. So maybe selecting, this is an example for you of what classes to take. If you're planning to do 12 units a semester and be a full-time, then you would want to do 6 units general ed and then 6 the major prep. And then again, like I mentioned, you need to understand the timing. Some classes are not offered in the fall and some classes are not offered in spring. That's why it's really important to come in and speak with us counselors to make sure that you are on time for transfer, for getting your degree or anything else. We have some availability for short-term classes. So maybe you are a person that you don't want to be overwhelmed with a lot of classes. You might want to do like 2 classes, really hard, focus on them, get them done, start another class. We have those 8-week sessions that you can start with. For example, we have right now the 8-week session coming in on October 16. That would be only 8 weeks and you can focus on it. So again, it's just a conversation that we need to make sure that that's the best class and the best time for you to take them. And then we need to make sure that we have 60 transferable units, like I mentioned, because to get an associate degree and to transfer, it's the same 60 units. Now, based on your major, you can go sometimes over 60 units. So we just have to see what classes you would take. So think about other considerations, like I mentioned, minimum GPA versus a competitive GPA. So if you're transferring, for example, for a psychology major, maybe the minimum GPA is, 3.0, 2.5, and then the competitive GPA is like what most students would apply for. Like even if it's a 2.5 minimum, maybe a lot of students apply and they have a 3.8. Of course, they might take the higher GPA because, we need to think of also competitive GPAs and what's not just the minimum GPA. Like I mentioned, some classes are only available in the fall or in the spring. And then we need to think about pathway options. This is important and it's a little confusing for students. If there is a pathway option called ADT versus the general pathway. Depends on each university. We have a contract here with each university based on the major. For example, maybe we have Business Administration 2.0 to transfer. It's called an ADT. So that's an associate degree to transfer. You will get easier acceptance when you apply to SDSU because we have a contract with them. Now, if we don't, for example, if we have another major that's not directly ADT, then we need to apply using general pathway. And of course, if you want to transfer, we need to make sure which major would be the best for you. And then we can always send you to the transfer center to talk about different pathways and which one would be the best for you to start with. Now let's talk about academic renewals. There was a huge update that got changed right now, which will help you students a lot. We have 2 types of academic renewals. We have one type that's an academic renewal with course repetition. So you can take a class, let's say something happened, you failed the class, you can apply for academic renewal, and then you can repeat the class. Now, that F will be removed, and then you will have the new grade. If it's an A or a B, that will replace the F. So that way your GPA will be boosted a lot because it's replacing the grade. Now you cannot do it for a lot of classes. It depends if you have taken the class somewhere else. That way, again, you need to make sure you send all your transcript if you've been to any other colleges before. Another type that we can do academic renewal for is called an academic renewal without course repetition. So this academic renewal will be really good for you, student, but you need to make sure that you do not do it for major courses. You cannot take a major class, fail it, and do academic renewal for it and not repeat it, because you have to, you have to make sure that you repeat the class to get the grade in. So always speak to the counselor before making any decision. This is just information for you to help you look at your transcript and maybe have ideas and come in with your transcript and let's talk about it. Before doing any academic renewal without course repetition, you must successfully complete 15 units in any accredited college or university with a grade point of average of at least 2.0, subsequent to work to be disregarded. And it has to be 1 year elapsed since the coursework to be disregarded and completed. So it's really important to see this point because sometimes it's your last semester and you want to do academic renewal for a specific course. It might not happen. That's why it's always to come back and, make sure what's the best thing to do. Now it used to be only 15 units that could be disregarded, but now it's actually 30 units. 30 units is a lot, but again, we might have started college a couple years ago and we did really bad. Life stopped us and we just didn't do well, or, I just didn't have the college mind. And now I'm really focused. I know what I want to do. Then, all these previous grades will affect my GPA. So that way, maybe we can do an academic renewal for these classes to have them be disregarded and not affect you. I always suggest that we do academic renewal by the end before also applying to different universities or graduating. That way we can do all the classes that might have been on our transcript. So just come in and we can talk about it to see what is the best thing to do for each class. But it will remain on your record, but the F will be the GPA will be really high because you're going to remove all these classes, and it's going to show that this class has academic renewal without course repetition. So for example, if you took maybe history class and it's not part of your major or it's not part of the transfer, you can replace that class with another history class or another music class, depends on the area. And then that class we can do academic renewal for, and it will not affect you. It will be better for you and it will boost your GPA up. If you have any questions, further questions, feel free to come in and then we can make an appointment and discuss them specifically based on your scenario. So always reach out. Just want to point out some campus programs and resources for you, especially if you want to do a transfer. I always suggest you go to the transfer center if you're looking for careers based on your major. Speak with the career center. They have really good tools also for you to find the best career for you and how much you can make and things like that. We have different programs on campus that you can always search them online on our website, and you can read and you can put an interest form and then they will reach out to you back. Any outside resources, any emergency housing, dial 211, access and crisis line, mental health. This is the phone number. We also have them here in the college, so feel free to speak with us and we can direct you. Any domestic violence hotline, this is the information as well. Any other outside resources we have here, you can always reach out to us and we can give you. And now the Career Center, something happened and they won't be able to join us today. So maybe we can ask them to send us a small video and then we can always share it with you all after. Don't forget to like our social media. We have Instagram and Facebook. Make sure you follow us. We always have program updates, video tutorials, activities, and any important services and resources. We are always up to date on reposting, making sure that you see anything that's happening on campus and maybe any outside resource helpful for you. So make sure you like these pages, and if you ever forget, just come back and we'll give you the information. And that would be all. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you have any questions, I am here to answer, or if you need to make an appointment, then I will be glad to help. Thank you.